if you did it, you have two choices. You can, one, make it count for one of your 10 minutes per day in your mini notepad, or two, type it up for me, because I'm sure most of you handwrite it, and turn it in for extra credit. More extra credit. Nah. If you didn't do it though, be honest. No, you can still do it, but I won't know the difference. That's the thing. I won't know the difference if you didn't do it, except that you didn't raise your hands. Okay, so does anyone need any kind of review of this? Okay, or do you guys kind of all get what this is? You understand it. It's the bread. So look at your hamburger things. Okay, you're going to introduce the source. You're going to use that source by quoting, paraphrasing, or summarizing. And then you're going to discuss the quote or explain the differences or similarities of opinion. That part is you. That is your thoughts, your ideas. But it's not whether you agree or disagree with them. What you're doing is you're just explaining what the differences and similarities of those sources, what they are. And again, analyzing or interpreting what those differences or similarities mean and how those differences or similarities might influence the debate. That's again, your thoughts, your ideas, but it's not your opinion on whether or not the sources are right or wrong. It's your interpretation. Like we asked last class, if you speak a second language, do you do straight interpretations, literal interpretations? Why is that, Tian? Yeah. So you have to kind of throw in your own like take on it, which is in a sense, a little bit your opinion. We've all seen those movies where the guy says something like stupid and the interpreter is like, he said this, and it's totally not what they said, but it was the general idea that they should have said that. It's kind of like that. And again, you can do this multiple times. But what it is you've got from here to here, if you see in this example, we've got a signal phrase and a parentheses number, if you will, that is putting boundaries around the bread and the meat at the top. So we know for a fact that anything outside of that signal phrase and that parentheses is you. So you don't say, I think, or I believe, or anything like that. But if you were to look at this, I could have said, I think this suggests that Koons finds the students in her English 150 class above average in intelligence and commitment. And I believe this is a change from Smith's previous argument, I believe that students coming into college from high school have been ruined by teachers giving the answers to problems and to their students and only teaching to the test. And what I think that means is that Koons has learned from her behavior towards her students that it refutes Smith's assessment of incoming freshmen. And I think that implies that his attitude toward them will only perpetuate the stereotypes that professors have about students. And I believe she's stressing that treating the students as intelligent and capable adults change both the attitude of the professor as well as the performance of the students. But I'm not doing that because I'm not allowed to put personal pronouns in there. But when I don't put parentheses around it, when I don't put it around those two borders, I'm pretty much saying that. Your audience will read it that way. Does that make sense how it's your opinion, but not your opinion? Okay, we're going to take it one step further. We're going to talk about synthesizing. Let's make cake. Sandwich cake. This is about integrating. This is about how to make it work, how it flows. And if you look at 381 of a writer's reference, you can actually see those sandwiches. Take a look. This is the student, that's the source. This is the student, that's the source. This is the student. So top bun, bottom bun, top bun, bottom bun, source. Vegetables and bun. So they're not always long. Sometimes they are.
The first paragraph is more of a Big Mac because that has bread in the middle.
Yeah, I guess you could say that this is a Big Mac. I would have preferred that she give a little bit more, but she kind of gave a little bit more here. So that kind of gives better support. I prefer more support with my sandwiches. I like them not to fall apart in my hands. Okay, this is page 381. You can visually see that it does exist. That's basically what synthesizing is. But tops for this part because it's all up here. So I'd like some readers if that's all right. Okay, so Thomas, one more please. John, okay. Understanding synthesis. So what does synthesis mean? Anyone? One more time.
Basically, like you're taking the material together and you're making.
So basically what you're saying is you're taking information from various sources and you're kind of like blending them together so that they create a new idea. Yeah, Nathaniel?
So basically what I think of it kind of like scientifically, so like a thesis statement in science is like in response to a question, you're like asking a question and doing experiments to figure out what the answer to that question is.
Synthesis.
Isn't that basically like you're basically answering a question with the different evidence that you have and you're basically putting it into your own works and stuff like that?
I guess that's a good interpretation of it. You're trying to go down to the etymology level, like what the roots of the words are.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to know what the roots are?
Sure.
Because that's what I did too. Syn means together. So like, for example, when your boss says, we want synergy, what he wants you to do is he wants you to take energy and your energy and Tian's energy and Han's energy and Annalise's energy and blend them together. So syn means together and thesis means ideas. Therefore, it would follow that synthesis means bringing together ideas to form a new idea. So yeah, you were along you were close. Okay, good job, Nathaniel. And did I hit it right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So think of it, this might be another way to think of it. I've got sea salt, flour, butter, vanilla, baking powder, cocoa, eggs, milk, and water. Might be oil. I think it's water though. Okay, when you each of these ingredients individually are okay. I'm not sure I would eat any of like anything from this part over by itself. Maybe the milk, the eggs, the water, and the butter I could eat by themselves, but not really. I don't want to. But when I take them together and I combine them together like I would combine sources, I come up with this glorious thing. A 3-layer chocolate cake. But that's not the only thing I can make out of this. I could take different ingredients like the cocoa, the vanilla, the baking powder, less flour, some of the butter, maybe less eggs, no milk, a little bit of salt, and I can make one of these. Brownies or cookies with a different kind of cocoa, or waffles, or I could really whip those eggs into a frenzy and make some German pancakes. Or I could make cake donuts and the cocoa actually is just the frosting. In other words, I could try out different combinations of those sources and I would have a different outcome each time. So I could write 5 other syntheses, if you will, using the same sources, just a different approach each time. Maybe more of this, less of this. So don't worry if yours doesn't turn out like what you saw in the examples, okay? Or it turns out better than the examples, who knows? That's good, okay? So what is the synthesis paper, Thomas?
A synthesis paper is not an explanatory essay or Wikipedia article.
Yeah. John?
A synthesis paper is not an argumentative essay.
Mhm. Thomas?
Rather than defending your own opinion regarding an issue, a synthesis paper examines the controversy or the
Conversation.
regarding that issue.
Okay, so John?
In other words, a synthesis paper is about what people are saying about the issue, not the issue itself.
Okay, so when you're sharing your opinion, it's about the issue, not necessarily the issue itself. Yes, we want to talk about the issue. Okay, you need to give your audience some background, but it's more about what these sources are saying about the issue. So this might be one way to think about it as a dinner party. Okay, they're all like discussing this topic, they all love cats. They think they're wonderful. They love how they purr. They love their soft fur. They love how they're smart and look good in art. And now I'm rhyming and I don't know why. They all agree, basically. But honestly, is this a synthesis? Not really. And really, truthfully, having just experienced Thanksgiving, all of us, is this really how dinner parties look? Not really. They probably look more like this. At least at the end of the meal, they look like this. Okay, so we've got source A, we'll call him blue sweater, and source B, we'll call him green sweater. They look like they're having a pretty deep discussion, but it doesn't look like they're actually fighting with each other. So maybe they agree that cats are intelligent, and that's why people love having them. Okay, so however, source C over here, we'll call him green shirt. He thinks cats are the cat's meow. They are the best thing in the world. But gray shirt, clearly his face, his body language is saying he disagrees. He thinks that dogs are better pets than cats. And he doesn't understand why anyone would want the black shirt, this one with the black tank top. I would say that she's more like a neutral one. She's like, yeah, I agree with pretty much everyone. Or she could be the source that is a specialized dictionary. So her only job is to be neutral and just share what cats are. This is what cats are. This is what dogs are. But yes, I agree. We're kind of like spaced out. She does kind of look a little drunk, doesn't she? But maybe just a little, or maybe just tired. Who knows what it is? But she's very neutral. She's not really participating in the conversation. If she does, she just says, dogs are this, cats are this. And green blouse over here, I'm not really sure whether she agrees or disagrees with these two, but she seems to be like listening or looking at gray shirt. So maybe she agrees with dogs because they have a lot of really good purposes. They can be used in law enforcement. They can be used in medicine. They can be used as work dogs on the farm. So there's a lot of good things. Yes, it is an apex predator, but that apex predator rarely, it does happen, but doesn't always attack their owner and eat them. Although I think that is, yeah, she appears to still be eating a little bit, yeah. So this is more what you would expect in a synthesis is they're agreeing with each other or they're disagreeing with each other. Or they might be agreeing with someone, but then they have something to add, a little extra, either for the negative or positive. That's what you're going to see in your paper. Yes, Thomas?
Is it okay to like compare two sources that agree with each other?
Oh, absolutely. That's why we have blue sweater and green sweater. And they're allowed to be at the conversation. They're allowed to be at the dinner party. There is something that's a little off to me, though. I don't know if you've noticed it. Oh, yes, there's an extra plate. Whose plate is this? It's your plate. Yes, Lucy, it's your plate. And what you're doing here is you're observing them. You're listening to what everyone is saying. And then all of a sudden you hear the door slam. And I come running in. Oh, I set down my purse. I'm so sorry. I already ate. Don't worry about me. I already had food. Oh, turkey. Ooh. Okay. And I look and I see them arguing or talking to each other. They're either agreeing or disagreeing. And I look at this dinner party and I go, hey, Lucy, what are they talking about? I'm your audience. I'm your reader. What are these sources talking about?
We're talking about cats and dogs and how dogs are better for such and such reasons, or cats could be better for such and such reasons.
So what is green shirt saying?
Green shirt saying that cats are better in general for something.
He seems to be making gray shirt really angry. Why?
So gray shirt has issues with some specific parts of green shirt's arguments and feels that dogs are better because of others. He feels that fundamentally they're different.
Okay, I get that. Now, maybe it's the turkey, but or maybe it's that my English isn't great. Like, they seem to be speaking like a different accent, so I'm not quite catching it all. Could you interpret for me what they're saying? Can you see? That's what you're doing, guys. Your job is to listen to all the different guests seated at the table and analyze their positions on the issue being discussed. And this will allow you to make an observation about the conversation rather than the issue yourself. And what your audience is doing when they come to your essay, when they read your essay, what they're saying is, what are they talking about? I don't quite get that. Could you like maybe say it a different way or analyze it and interpret it a little bit better for me? And that's your job. Now, this is the reason why I wanted you to ask research questions, because these are going to help you. They're going to drive your research, help you to have focus in your writing, and they'll help you to organize your sources. And they should be specific and concrete, meaning no abstractions, no subjective, like, are comic books good for kids? This isn't specific enough. Good is too abstract and subjective. Are they good for kids in what way? And what exactly do you mean by kids? But if you wrote a question like, what have researchers discovered? See, I'm plugging in the experts there from our research plan. What have researchers discovered about the advantages and disadvantages of using comic books to improve reading skills in the beginning readers? This is much more specific, very concrete. I know exactly which group I'm looking at. When I say kids, I mean readers who are beginners. Here's some other ones. They should also be reasonably controversial, excuse me. If there's no controversy, then there can be no argument between the sources. Now, if no one has a dissenting or different opinion, then the topic probably isn't controversial, which is okay. But the problem is your audience isn't going to see a big picture if there's no controversy, there's no opposing viewpoints. So example of this, do Mormons build temples? Yeah. There's no argument there. Can students at BYU Idaho buy Dr. Pepper on campus? Nope, it's not an option. Nope, there's no, well, I shouldn't say there's not a place. Legend has it there is one pop dispenser that does sell caffeinated drinks. Legend. And I cannot tell you where it is because literally, no, I do not. That's why I cannot. When I say cannot, I mean I am unable to tell you where it is because I have not found it yet. I'm looking, I haven't found it yet. So maybe it's just a legend to give people hope. I don't know. So a better way to write this was, how does caffeinated drinks affect the body? What benefits and disadvantages or maybe risks would there be having caffeinated drinks on campus? I think the students might be more alert. Which you'd like to explore?
Yes, how do you learn?
Oh, this is an excellent question, Scudder. Would you like to start the conversation, or would one of you other three gentlemen like to start?
Can you repeat the question?
How do people learn?
I thought this debate.
Nope, it's a conversation.
How do people learn? I, for one,
You could debate, you could disagree with one another.
I, for one, think that the way people learn is
Guys, please, Mr. Scudder's a small.
continuing to dive deeper and deeper into a subject, so you can bring on all the facts and all the different interesting things about a certain topic. So I think repetition is a very crucial way and very important way for people to learn.
Okay, so what you're saying, Mr. Scudder, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that in order for a person to learn, one method or technique that they might use is repetition or looking deeper into a topic. Good. Would you say that that is a good way to learn because that is how you learn?
I feel like it is an effective way to learn.
An effective way. That's a better way to phrase it. Thank you for giving me the correct word. Sorry, something weird's going to happen right here. Very good. Yeah.
How can we avoid regurgitation from repetition?
Okay, so, all right, so would Mr. Carr, this is not a new question. This is building off of his suggestion is that we do it through repetition and looking deep. Do either of you have a different take on that, like John proposed? Yes, Mr. Feynman,
I
please.
think learning through the world around us is most effective because that's where we're going to be applying.
So you find that memorization doesn't exactly work as well as it could.
Yeah,
It's not as effective.
it's definitely effective.
Would you say that maybe that's not what exactly Mr. Scudder was saying. He's not about like memorization as much as looking at a subject again and again and again. That's what he meant by repetition. But you're saying that application is a good build up from memorization and or repetition of looking at the same topic. See what I'm doing here, guys? Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Carr, Mr. Butler, do you want to add to this, or you good with what they said?
I'm trying to think of there's anything, or if I'm just thinking of it in a different way.
So Mr. Butler, everyone. Professor at BYU.
But I think it's sort of going off of
Feynman's or Steiner?
Feynman.
Feynman? Excuse me. And you know I mispronounce things. Thank you for giving me Mr. Feynman.
Giving real world examples instead of like you can learn stuff in the classroom, but then once you apply it, you'll find out where your knowledge actually goes to.
Okay. So you agree with Mr. Feynman that you should apply the knowledge that you're learning after you learn it, like after you think you know it well enough. But that application needs to be in the real world. It can't just be in your head.
Yes.
And would you say that perhaps both of them, that's how they learned? You'd agree that both of them have their own way of doing it.
Everybody
Scudder,
has their own way of learning.
Yeah, Scudder by repeatedly going back to the same topic and looking deeper, and Feynman by actually finding the application for every question that is answered or every memorization that happens.
More or less.
And your interpretation is that it needs to exist though. While you agree with that, it needs to exist in the real world.
Yes.
Okay, good. Car, anything to add, or should we move to a different question?
We'll probably want to move to a different question in a minute, but basically the information I have is just that it's hard to also know how you're getting that information when you're learning. I don't really have to say necessarily on what is the best way to learn. The fact that there's different avenues to learn and the world around us affects that. And it may affect us more than we think. That society and just the way that everything's built out, specifically the internet, has affected the way that we think and the way that we also learn. So we need to make sure that we have viable avenues for learning. And so it's not necessarily me wanting to have a say on what is the most effective way of learning, or is where we should look to for avenues for information.
And no, it does make sense. It makes perfect sense. What you're saying is that you actually might learn more by truly going out and applying the knowledge you're learning, and by experiencing it for yourself, which is what Butler and Scudder were saying, and Feynman, and that you can't always rely on Google to find it for you. Yes.
That the avenues of information we're going to in learning,
Mhm.
and our classroom is affected.
Is affected by that.
The way, like it expounds on it.
Sorry, keep going.
It cascades. Sort of.
It cascades. So meaning we start with the initial learning, the searching of Google or some other source. And then from there, we really go into it. We learn it more, almost like memorizing it almost. And then we apply it by either putting it into application or going into the real world.
And it's up to you to figure out how that works. And it's up to you to figure out if that information is viable. You can't take everything. You have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Can you see kind of a little bit, guys, how, Ellie, how this works? How synthesis works? Good, thank you, guys. Well done. I appreciate it. I hope this kind of gave you a better idea of how to synthesize. Hopefully, maybe.